Now, Richard did speak to then Prince Andrew in Davos in 2009. He explained the relationships he had built during his term as British trade envoy. Listen.
Over the last 7 years since I've been doing this role for the United Kingdom, I've built up a network of contacts, both business and in government. I've also built a large international relationship field. And the government of ours, or Her Majesty's government, have been saying to me, please continue to build those relationships and work those relationships, because we need to know what people are thinking.
Now, we want to be clear here. Andrew has not been charged with a crime. British solicitor Chloe Jay told CNN that authorities will likely conduct further inquiries and bring the evidence together. Now, if Andrew is charged, the police will prosecute him in the name of the Crown. A remarkable position for King Charles to be in. Nazir Afzal is a former chief crown prosecutor. He now serves as Chancellor of the University of Manchester. And as we just pointed out, that case will be going ahead in the name of the King, because he is the official head of state, obviously. We just outlined that certainly Andrew Windsor Mountbatten, he denies any wrongdoing and that he has not yet been charged. How do you see this case going forward, understanding as well that there are searches going on at his residence?
Good evening. The reason why he was arrested rather than voluntarily coming by appointment was because the police wanted to carry out those searches. They wanted to look for relevant material in any of the accommodation that he's had. He would have been interviewed at the police station today. He would have had a lawyer present. At the end of that, the police decide that they don't have enough evidence currently, and so he was then released under investigation. The United States should call that bail. And that means at some point he will have to return to the police station. In the meantime, the police will examine the material they already have, the emails that Richard spoke about earlier, the interview, any other witnesses that come forward, and make a judgment as to whether or not the offence of misconduct in public office, which, by the way, carries a maximum life imprisonment, has been made out. And what you have to show in that scenario is that he was a public officer, that he willfully misconducted himself, and that he did so in such a way that abused the public's trust. Now, the evidence that we've seen in the Epstein emails is quite serious. It suggests allegedly that he was passing information to Epstein, often in real time, that was sensitive and confidential. And that would ordinarily amount to misconduct. However, what the police and the prosecutors will do is look at whether or not there was any justification for that. We have to remember also that he's innocent until proven guilty. So, we can't comment. In the United Kingdom, we can't comment on the evidence in this case, whilst now that the proceedings in effect are active. But that said, he faces a short time under investigation. He will undoubtedly be returning to be interviewed again. And there is a strong possibility that he will be charged with this offence and any other offences that might flow from that. I think it needs to be said, Paula, that because of the nature of these offences, largely documentary offences, that's the reason why the police were able to move quite quickly to the arrest stage. But as you've said previously, over the last 10 years or so, he's been under investigation or being concerned in relation to sexual abuse allegations. And those have not progressed at all. So it may well be that they too are being looked at by either this police force or by the Metropolitan Police in London. So I think Andrew's issues and problems have only just begun.
And you outlined quite the intensive investigation on several fronts. In terms of the way this plays out, does this play out as if Andrew were you or me? Is there any distinguishing factors here, especially since, as we pointed out, he is still eighth in line to the throne?
He is. The king has made him a private citizen by removing all of his airs and graces, all his titles, and he'll be treated as a private citizen. That said, it is extremely high profile. I mean, I've dealt with very high profile cases, and I can assure you that prosecutors and police will be dotting all the I's, crossing all the T's, making sure that everything is done absolutely properly, to the fullest extent and comprehensively, in order that if they decide not to charge, that they can explain that. If they do decide to charge, that they too will be able to proceed to a trial. So I think whilst he is being dealt with as a private citizen, I have no doubt whatsoever that it'll be any decision on this case will be taken by the most senior and most experienced police officers and the most senior and the most experienced prosecutors.
Nazir Afzal for us in Manchester. Thank you very much. We've learned a lot. Appreciate it.